Hi, I'm Paul Salmon, I'm a psychic medium, and you're watching the Eternal Spirit Show with me and my guest, Robert Lummis. Hello, Robert. Nice to see you again.
Yeah,
Welcome
it's a
back.
pleasure, always a pleasure.
We could call this show Two Men and Two Hats.
We could do, yeah.
Or the Hat Show.
We could do, yes.
Without us.
Yeah.
Robert, I believe you've got your own spiritual centre now.
I have, yes.
Tell me about this, because I don't know anything about this.
Right, all it is a multi-denominational centre whereby everybody comes. I'm a great believer and always have been that the beliefs that people have are their own.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that as soon as you go through the doors of any church, the belief is dictated through that church.
Right, okay.
So therefore all we do is we get people together, sit down, they discuss their beliefs with others in great respect. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Right, and do you have like guest speakers to
Yes.
stand up and, or mediums to get up and give demonstrations? of
Yes, we do.
clairvoyance?
We have mediums sometimes, we have guest speakers sometimes talking from a wide range of things that we've got booked from astrology, which is the 6th of March, which is the next one. It's the first Friday of every month.
Yeah.
Right through to Jerry, a little Irishman, talking about poots and leprechauns and legends and myths and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have got the vicars of the churches in Trimley that are booked. Well, they were booked last time, but unfortunately they couldn't come, so I've rebooked them.
Mm.
And we've got lots of other things going on as well.
Right.
So it's a case of believers, non-believers, just want to come for a chat, meet new friends, over a nice cup of tea, see the stalls that are about, and it's all for charity.
Right.
All profits,
Yeah.
after the hall's been taken off, go to charity.
Okay. And how do people find, if you never heard about this, your centre, how do you find out about it? Is it advertised anywhere?
Yes, it is. It's on Store Finder. It's on all my websites. I've got a special website for it, so all you have to tap in on a Facebook site is Rob's Spiritual Awareness Centre, and it'll come up straight away.
Well, I'm going to pop down there as you.
Do pop down,
have a
and
nose.
then perhaps later on, if you like it, we can book you.
Oh yeah, put me.
And then, then if you've got something on your mind and you can talk about it, talk about it.
Mm. Yeah, excellent. Now we've both got the hats.
Yep.
But you got the feathers, Rob.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And I haven't got. Well, is there some significance with those?
The feathers are my respect for the Hopi Indians, where I was over in Holland with them. I stayed with them for a month. Today the Indians all have trailers and run about in 4x4s,
Yeah.
but the older generation who lived with them, and we can learn an awful lot from them, tell me about the traditions and the way of. They showed me how to make the shields, and I took a copy from there, brought it over, so now I do North American Shields workshop with the medicine wheel and the totem animals
Right.
and the 4 directions, etc. And it's all based on that.
Mm.
So I have been asked to go again, but unfortunately that things, well, I can't go again. But I went over there to live with them once, and I've been over there to do workshops on several occasions, ranging over about 5 years.
But isn't one of your guides a Hopi Indian?
He is. Yeah,
Now,
some of them.
so what came first, the living over there or finding out about your Indian first?
Well, I found out about my Indian years and years ago. I've actually got a picture of him done by a psychic artist.
Yeah, which is on the cover of your book, isn't
Which
it?
is on the
Which
cover.
I've read.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happens is that I knew my guide as something else in different disguises before, and he told me, and he was his first incarnation on life on this earth, if you like, the way I interpret it, and the way everybody interprets guides or inspirers. They were here at one time.
Mhm.
So he showed me as an Egyptian. He told me his name, and he told me how I could find him.
Uh-huh.
So I did. I went to the library, had a look and seen. I'd already studied the Egyptologist when I was in London anyway, been to the museum, went to loads of lectures, studied the hieroglyphics and can do a certain amount of it. And I went to the library down here and found out, and there he was. So from there, he helped me write the book, and the book was, he told me how the two north and south of the Egyptian through Karnak evolved, and how the pyramids came about, how the first tombs, he went through the a dynastic dynasty right up to the 1st and 2nd, into the 4th, 5th and 6th, right up to the 18th dynasty when Tutankhamun was on this earth.
Uh-huh.
All the dynasties from there. He showed me the pyramid text, showed me where to find out about it, which I knew some about it anyway. And from there, a lot of things that we have established within our Christian society were depicted. This is 1500 years before what we know now as Christianity.
So, but how did he communicate with you? Is it through meditation, or do you hear voices?
He just spoke to me.
Yeah.
And I speak to him all the time.
Yeah.
I do not get pictures or symbols or anything like that from spirit. I get what he tells me and I tell the person.
Right.
And I trust in everyday life. If I have a problem, I trust and he'll help me out. And he has done over a 30-year period, and it's been fine.
So when he talks to you, do you write it all down and like
I do.
the history of stuff?
I have a channeling page, which is for guides, inspirers, philosophy from guides, inspirers. And what he does is he gives me something, I write it down, and I put it on the page.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that are in there, inspirational words, and it's only been there for about 3 months, and it's gone from 30 people to 1,300. So I mean, it's just people, and I don't have anything else apart from channeled words that come through.
Uh-huh.
And if anything else does come through, then I afraid I'd blank it.
Did you say his tribe's in Holland?
No, I said the reservation,
The reservation,
where he lives is in Holland.
Right, then what are they doing in Holland? Because I think of guides as being in America.
Well, unfortunately, we have a preset idea about guides. Over there, I first got introduced to him as a Hopi. He's got a big bed shop over there, and he makes great big beds out of tree trunks and things like that, massive things. Probably fill this room up, you know? Wonderfully carved and things like that. He then introduced me to some people, and we did workshops over there, and from there he invited me to go over and see him. And there's probably about a dozen and a half traders over there in a, you can't call it a reservation or anything, it's just a settlement that's over there, but they're all Hopi Indians.
Okay.
And he explained to me that people say about the Hopis or the Shangwars or whatever it happens to be, the tribes, they say that that's not really important. What's important is the culture that we left behind, and now we have to we westernised ourselves, and now we get involved with this situation now. So all traditions and cultures that were left behind are non-existent, only for the people who taught it to us, who are now with us.
Okay. You should have a couple of more books up here somewhere, Robert, haven't you?
I have
Need writing?
Well, I've been told about that, but I don't really. My interest and my concern now is to get over to people and to benefit from the vulnerable within this society. I've always worked my life, apart from when I was a builder, with the vulnerable. That's where my heart is. That's why I set up the charities and things.
What sort of vulnerable people are we talking about?
Well, I worked with epilepsy and autism for years and years.
Yeah.
Also worked in a prison service with special needs, and that was loss of limb, etc., and blindness and things like that. And I find that what you get from these people is absolutely breathtaking. A little, if we think, just making a cup of tea, for instance, is no task to us. But for people who are maybe physically or mentally impaired, it's a great manifestation for them to make that cup of tea. It's easier for us to do it, but when we find out that they do it, the joy that we get from knowing that they've learnt, in life, then we're all told that we have choices. But sometimes we have to impair them to give that instructive choice so they can do, because they can't physically understand that situation. It's got to be informative choices that we give. And when we give them informative choices, and we just get a response by a raise of a hand, a blink of an eye, a movement of the leg, a twitch of the mouth, something like that, they are communicating. That's the pleasure that we get from those. The love that comes through is incredible. We take things for granted, unfortunately. And because we take them for granted, we don't think about those.
No, we don't, do we? We don't. As let's talk about your mediumship work,
Right, okay.
which I don't think I've asked any at all guest of mine in the past. When you go in church to work or in front of an audience or a one-to-one reading, how do you switch on? What's your technique? Do you work with chakras? Do you just say a little prayer? Or do you just get to work? Or do you meditate beforehand?
No, I don't meditate. I used to meditate years ago,
Yeah.
but I was told that it's not necessary to meditate.
No.
Let me just diverse over that question just a minute before I answer it. Today there are psychics, as we call psychics, coming out of the woodwork. They're all over the media sites today, wherever they are. Some do the readings on the media sites. Some have their little rooms that they do, or they go to fairs or whatever. There is no difference between a spiritual medium and a psychic medium. Because psychics will generally go up to spirit anyway, and they'll get that link after a while. A spiritual medium, okay, because the word spiritual is there, it's their belief, and that's fair enough. Everybody works with some kind of guide or inspirer, but it's nothing more than that little voice inside you that you've had since you were born. We complicate matters so much. And unfortunately, that it's like anything else. When there's a money situation there and can be had, you're going to get good and bad in everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the way, more so than in a situation, because we're not selling a product. We're not actually saying to anybody, this will, that will, something else will happen. Because, let's face it, if we do work for spirit and we know that there is life after life, we don't have so much worry as other people do. So therefore we trust, that's all we do. Nothing else.
All right. So you are this living embodiment of a spiritual person anyway, and you just do the work.
Well, you flattered me by saying that. Well, I don't think I am that, but what I am is I work with my inner self, my inner voice, and I trust it.
Yeah.
And if you say it's a guide, it's a guide. I understand it as a guide, but that's my personal preference, the same as anyone else. There are certain situations whereby people need a little nudge along the way, hence development circles, and that of which you well know about these sort of things, and all that. But people, when people call it a calling, don't they, in other religions, which this is not, but when that time is right for that person, something clicks. It's like a light bulb syndrome going on.
So what's it take to be a medium or spiritual? Let's say a medium, because a lot of people are spiritual and not mediums, you know.
Yeah.
So to be a medium, what qualities does one need, do you think?
Well, I think anybody can become and is a medium. We are all born with knowledge that we learn, but we have relearned this, because I don't believe we come down to this earth to learn fundamental lessons. I believe that perhaps we have learned them, but when we get through to learning that lesson at the time, it's like a light bulb or the filing cabinet saying switches on within inside us, and we've learned that, and so we recognise it. The thing about it is that we have a choice then whether to go with it or not, and it's the same with all life, the same with working with spirit. If we have something happen and it affects our emotions, which is an energy, we have a choice whether to go with it, ignore it, or fight it.
Yep, you're right. Yes, you are. I remember my first trip, my first visit to a spiritualist church, and I received a message, and it's like a light bulb went on. It's like, phew, that was my calling, or whatever you want. So But then it could be a musician, it could be a pianist, whatever it
It's the
takes.
same, absolutely. Yeah.
An artist.
Yeah.
Uh,
People think that they've got it from a certain place, but if we invent something, we do something, we play something, we hear something that affects us, then it affects us for a reason.
yeah.
And sometimes we know that reason, it hits us right in the face, other times it doesn't. But somewhere along the line it will.
I want to ask you a question, a bit different now, because I read in your book about the silent order.
Yeah.
Now, what is a silent order? It sounds
Well,
intriguing.
I went over to Scotland on the Bay of First of Fife. We went over there and it's like a big Martello tower on Chapel Island. And we went out there and it's like a ferryman and we had to climb up this ladder to get there. And it was approximately about a quarter of a mile when you stood in the middle in all directions. And in fact, I used to laugh because you used to get the great big gannets there, and you had 12 of them that filled up the island, that thing. But inside, there were monks. There were 3 monks, and those monks did their silent order. That's what they call. It's not there now. It hadn't been for a few years.
Isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not there because they were getting on in stature, and then. So anyway, and people were invited to come. And I did workshops and things like that with 3 other people as well. But what we did, we fended for ourselves. We got allocated like a monk who looked after us. But we were up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they had 3 polytunnels there. Weren't very big, but in there was our breakfast, dinner and teas that we want. There are other things to go with it, of course, but they were the main things, the vegetables and things that we needed. When we'd had those, we prepared the soil and planted for the next lot to come along, so they would reap that. It was in a cycle of about 3 months. So then after we did that, we went down and we joined the monks for prayer, and we didn't say anything. And they went through their routine. Then we went and prepared the dinners and the breakfast and the meals. Our first meal was about 6 o'clock, about 5, 6 o'clock. And then from there what we'd do is we'd only speak with the people that were in the kitchen. There were no monks, it was just the people that came for workshops and things. Then we would take it out, we'd all sit together and there'd be no speaking, hence silent order. And then we had little rooms which were probably no more than about 10 by 10, if that. And we just had a bed, you know, with a mattress of sort, and that's and a cardboard chair, a sink in there. Every morning, I had my lovely man called John. He came along, and I had a big ponytail then before I got the cancers and things like that. And he used to come along and help me plait it and everything else, and he never said a word, never said anything. The only time he spoke was when he came in to introduce us to the workshop, and we had people come from all over for that.
And were these Christian monks? Christianity?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they were Christian monks, yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, right. How long did you spend over there?
I was supposed to be over there for 9 days.
Yeah.
I actually was 8, because coming back, I had a phone call when I'd finished, after I'd done the workshops and things like that. You had time to yourself. And that's the only time we could have a phone call, and it was one phone on the island. We didn't have any phone. Couldn't take it. I had a phone call to say that a certain friend of mine had passed away, which I knew she'd gone into hospital.
Yeah.
And her partner, Stephen, asked me if I'd take the funeral. So I came back early and drove through, called on Chelmsford, took the funeral, and came back home again.
And did that leave you with any resonance inside yourself that you still have like today? Your experience on the island, has it left you with any?
Fundamentally it has, and that is that all people are the same. We are different in temperament and physical, that's all.
Yeah.
But we all have go through the same lessons in different guises. We all have the same conditions in different guises in life, and we all have the choices. And to sit down, that's what first I came across the thought. My guide told me we need to sit down, everybody, no matter what beliefs they are, and stop the dictation and the control and just be ourselves and know that we are born from spirit, we'll go back to spirit. Religion gets in the way, unfortunately, because we tend to think that religion is the be-all and end-all, and I'm not knocking anybody who has what they have, because that's their faith, and everybody needs a little something to get through life when chips are down.
Yeah.
Yeah? So that's the real call, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then when I had the cancer, of course, and I really had time to re-evaluate myself, and talking with the guides and everything else, my guide, we then decided to do this, that and something else, and I knew when the time was right, the opportunity was come on, and they did.
Well, thanks for taking this opportunity today,
That's
Robert.
Right, no problem.
Thanks for making this choice of coming
That's
in
right.
again.
Yeah, that's no problem at all.
And we'll leave it there, and thanks ever so much, and wish you luck for your continued endeavours and success.
That's very nice. Okay.
So thanks everyone, hope you enjoyed it with Robert and me, and see you again. Cheerio.